Good evening, everyone. I'm Leah Cooper with your JCN News for this Monday, November 9th. After 4 weeks of restrictive measures, curfews, and weekend lockdowns aimed at reducing the spread of COVID-19 on New Providence and Abaco, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced a relaxation of some of the measures. New Providence and Abaco at the time were recording an alarming number of cases. However, the Prime Minister says that good progress has been seen on the islands and announced a number of revised measures for New Providence and Abaco. I'm Grand Bahama, beginning today.
The weekend 24-hour curfew is lifted. The curfew on Saturdays and Sunday will now be from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. The weekday curfew will move from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. And this 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew will also apply to Grand Bahama on weekdays and at the weekends.
Health officials had announced during one of its recent press conferences that cases were trending down. According to the Prime Minister, between October 10th and November 5th, new COVID cases decreased by 50%.
In the last 7 days, new COVID cases decreased by 8%. The national average of the number of new cases each week continues to fall. Hospitalization have decreased by 68% from mid-October to now. The data suggests that transmission is decreasing. The most recent data put our national positivity rate at 16%, which is a 44.8% reduction from the week just before the measures were put in place. These rates have continuously decreased, and just yesterday, the rate of positivity was 5.7%. We have seen good progress on both New Providence and Abaco.
The retail sector, including pharmacies, may resume in-store services Monday to Saturday following protocols prepared by the Bahamas Federation of Retailers and certified by the Ministry of Health. On Saturdays, grocery stores may open to the public, and on Sundays, they may also restock. Also on Sundays, only drive-through and takeaway services will be permitted. Outdoor dining may resume at restaurants and at fish fries Monday to Saturday, and at hotels, indoor dining may resume. Beaches and parks will now be open on Saturdays and Sundays from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. with groups limited to 5 people. Dr. Minnis stressed that beaches and parks will be closely monitored by the COVID-19 enforcement unit.
We continue to consult with health officials to determine the appropriate time for the safe reopening of gyms, spas, and other elements of our economy. Health officials will continue to closely monitor COVID-19 developments on New Providence and Abaco and continue to assess the health data. I heartily thank all of those who continue to follow the health measures. Because of your patience, your fortitude, and your discipline, we are making progress.
Dr. Minnis assures that what is being done in the short term will help families, businesses, and the ongoing reopening of the economy in the medium and long term. However, he warned that as the reopening of the economy comes in phases, it is anticipated that the number of cases will increase. But he says we can still slow and control the transmission of COVID-19 if we consistently practice the health measures recommended by public health professionals that we already know are effective. With confirmed cases of COVID-19 up to 117 as of Saturday, Eleutherians have now been placed under tight restrictive measures. The Prime Minister also announced new restrictions for the island during his national address, and those include travel restrictions, as the Prime Minister advised in a press statement this morning that all domestic flights or sea vessels traveling in or out of Eleuthera are prohibited at this time, except in the case of emergency, where approved by the Director of Civil Aviation for flights or Bahamas Maritime Authority for sea vessels.
All districts in Eleuthera have recorded cases of COVID-19. South Eleuthera has the greatest proportion of cases with 37.8%, followed by North Eleuthera with 29.7%, and then Central Eleuthera with 24.4%. Health officials have reported that a number of COVID-19 cases have been linked to bars. Additionally, the current increase in cases in Eleuthera has been linked to a funeral just 2 weeks ago.
Now, just last week, a team from the Ministry of Health traveled to Eleuthera to assess the COVID-19 situation. They reported that there appears to be minimal to no adherence to public health measures to prevent the spread of the virus. Dr. Minnis noted during his address that some concerned residents of Eleuthera have called for more restrictive measures to be put in place to arrest the spread of COVID-19. New measures for Eleuthera also come into effect today.
To be clear, the new measures do not apply to Spanish Wells or Harbour Island. A 24-hour weekend curfew will be implemented starting 6 p.m. on Fridays and ending 5 a.m.
Commercial activity may continue during non-curfew hours. However, according to the Prime Minister, health officials have recommended the closure of all bars. As a result of this recommendation, all bars and restaurants connected to bars are to be closed. Residents should also not operate bars from their homes. All private and public social gatherings are prohibited. Indoor church services are not permitted. In-person classroom instructions of students is also prohibited. However, both may occur virtually. Funerals are to have a maximum of 10 people at the graveside, excluding the officiant and caretakers. Weddings also a maximum of 10 people, excluding the officiant. Receptions and repasts are prohibited. The Prime Minister says health officials will continue to closely monitor the COVID-19 situation on Eleuthera. As the nation's leader continues to strike a balance between the health of Bahamians and the wealth of the nation and relax some restrictions put in place for islands that had a high number of COVID-19 cases, JCN's news team took to the streets of the capital this morning to get residents' thoughts on the new relaxed measures. Construction worker William Nairn says that relaxations are a positive move for the country.
The only thing I'm concerned about, businesses is one thing. Livelihood is another. I think that the hotels need to be open now so people can go back to work. Tourists could come in and help us service the Bahamas debt. We got a lot of debt here. And then the churches. I didn't hear anything about the churches. Churches need to operate. You know, we need to operate. There's so many persons here in this Bahamas. This is a religious nation, a Christian nation. But our churches are being affected. We can only have X amount of people. If this COVID-19 persists and it gets serious again, I could understand the lockdown, but then if the rules are not being adhered to, that's why we have the problems. You know, I know the police can only do so much, but Bahamian people need to now have pride and set a standard that they will follow the protocols that set in place.
Now, Robert Hall, who's also in the construction business, shared his thoughts on the Prime Minister's decision and says it's a good thing, especially the relaxation of weekend lockdowns, which will be beneficial for his business.
I think generally, I realize that nobody has the perfect or surefire strategy, and I believe everybody, him included, is doing the best they can to make adjustments and judgments based on what evidence they have before them. And in that light, I think we have to be at least appreciative of the spirit of where it's coming from, which is to look out for the people, both economically and public health wise.
Another citizen, Walt Forbes, also shared his thoughts.
I think it's very, very good. It's needed. I think people are really getting frustrated at weekends. I know I am, spending all weekend. You know, I've got the dogs, but it's not good company. But yeah, it's good to see the restrictions lifted. The curfew, I don't know whether it could be a little bit better than it is, but it's good to see restaurants opening again. Opportunities, they've suffered a lot, and other shops and things. You can actually go into pharmacies now and get what you want instead of queuing outside. I think it's a very good step forward. He's been cautious, I think, and obviously he's wanted to maintain the results.
The Prime Minister announced that the weekend 24-hour curfew for Abaco and New Providence has been lifted and replaced with a 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. Weekday curfews will be pushed back by an hour from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. between Mondays to Fridays. Dr. Minnis warned, however, that cases could increase and another lockdown could be implemented if health protocols are not followed. COVID-19 cases in the country at nearly 7,000 as health officials confirmed 68 cases over the weekend. 31 cases were reported on Friday, 20 on Saturday, and 17 cases were reported on Sunday. 36 cases in total were confirmed on New Providence, 20 on Grand Bahama, 6 on Eleuthera, and 3 each on Abaco and Exuma, bringing the total in country to 6,984. As it stands now, active COVID cases are tallied at 1,830 and recoveries at 4,943. Unfortunately, health officials confirmed 3 deaths between Friday and Saturday. A 66-year-old male who died on November 6, a 60-year-old female, and a 58-year-old male who both died on November 7th. All of these unfortunate deaths are in New Providence. These deaths bring the death toll to 154. To date, 38,187 tests have been completed. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.